Everyone else had refused, left behind a paralyzed Lazerian warrior, a casualty too impossible to save. But Brian Carter didn't think an impossible. The acrid scent of burnt metal and scorched plasma filled the air as he picked his way through the wreckage of what had once been the forward command post. Combat boots crunched over shell casings, mech fragments, and twisted metal. Every step a testament to human resilience. Every breath a defiance against the chaos that surrounded him. The battlefield was eerily silent now, save for the distant hum of residual energy from smoldering drones. "Hell here," he muttered, adjusting the strap of his Mark 7 plasma rifle, its power cell humming reassuringly against his shoulder. One of the few familiar comforts in a wasteland of destruction. His tactical HUD flickered static. The Dranid's final assault had wiped out most of the Alliance communications network. Brian's squad, the 23rd Marine Combat Division, reduced to a single soldier. And yet, somehow, he was still standing. The enhanced sensors in his combat suit picked up faint movement ahead. Brian crouched, muscles tensing as he raised his rifle through the settling dust and smoke. That's when he saw her. Half buried under debris, a female figure lay like a fallen statue. Silvery hair fanned out across the dark ground, glinting like metal shards under the dim light. Her lavender-grey skin, faintly luminescent, marked her as a Lazerian warrior, one of humanity's strongest allies. Her armor, a modernized echo of ancient ceremonial garb, was torn and streaked with phosphorescent blood. Her eyes fluttered open as he approached, storm cloud grey, sharp and alert despite the obvious injury. "Don't move," Brian said, kneeling. Beside her, "I'm Sergeant Brian Carter, Earth Marine Corps, Kira." "Kira Banis," she whispered, voice melodic despite the pain. "3rd Strike Force. I can't feel my legs." The med scanner confirmed his worst fear. Her spine was severely damaged. Middle of a war zone. Enemy forces potentially regrouping protocol dictated she was as good as dead. But Brian's human instinct rebelled. He looked at the approaching boogies on his HUD, then back at her. Logical choice, leave her. Moral choice, impossible. "Not happening," he muttered, already working to lift debris from her pinned body. "You shouldn't," Kira said, reading his expression. "Others must have survived. Save yourself." Brian ignored her. Like hell he'd survived this show just to leave someone behind. Muscles straining, augmented strength kicking in, he carefully lifted her. Noting the advanced materials of her combat suit designs meant to stabilize injuries. "Might hurt a bit," he warned. "Had worse," she gasped as he shifted her. "Wait, perhaps not recently," she murmured. Brian grinned despite the chaos. "Hold tight, we're making an extremely unauthorized withdrawal from this party." He moved quickly through the rubble-strewn battlefield. Enhanced muscles barely registering Kira's weight, she went silent. But the rhythm of her breathing against his neck told him she was conscious, aware. "Your heart rate is remarkably steady for someone carrying dead weight in a war zone," she murmured. "Marine training, sweetheart," he quipped. Her laughter was soft, unexpected, a reminder that even here, humanity could endure. "Though I'll admit, you're the most attractive cargo I've ever carried." Floating while evading death, she commented, amusement threading through the words. Delightfully human. Brian's eyes scanned the battlefield through the smoke. 3 boogies at 2 o'clock. "Any insight on Dranid patrol patterns?" he asked. "They hunt in triangular formations," she replied, unconsciously gripping his shoulder. "Visible ones are bait. Watch for flankers." He nodded, impressed. Tactical knowledge. Despite paralysis. Focus, Marine, he reminded himself. "Got any other tricks in that stylish combat suit of yours?" She let out a playful hum. "Professional interest, of course." He grinned, carefully maneuvering around a smoking crater. Tactical advantages only. Purely military observation." "Of course," she purred. "Admiring your combat suit capabilities, purely from a strategic perspective." The banter ended with a high-pitched whine of charging Dranid energy weapons. Brian dove behind a fallen pillar, twisting to shield Kira as plasma bolts seared. The air where they had just stood. Well, this is cozy, she remarked, inches from his face, though I prefer my intimate encounters with less plasma fire involved. Brian risked a glance over cover. 5 hostiles. Any suggestions? Her eyes glinted with warrior intelligence. Armor junction shoulder to neck. 1 precise shot. Boom, like the way you think, he said, shifting position. The first shot hit precisely. 2 more Dranids were obliterated as their armor failed catastrophically. Impressive shooting. Kira acknowledged admiration in her tone. Impressive intel, he countered, already moving to a new position. We make a good team. They danced through the battlefield, Brian's strength complementing Kira's tactical brilliance. Felt enemies littered their path. She warned of hidden dangers, he adjusted his aim, and their cooperation was seamless, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and Lazerian strategy. Then Kira paused, tensing. Do you smell that? Brian's enhanced senses caught it. Fuel cells, military grade. A downed transport. If one of theirs, a medical pod might remain intact. Worth the risk? He asked. I trust your judgment, she said simply, a statement. Heavier than any flirtation. They approached, careful, silent, scanning every shadow. Emergency lights pulsed, casting an ethereal glow across Kira's silvery hair. You realize the power surge will light us up like a supernova, she whispered. Been a long time since I threw a party, Brian said with a grin, gripping her closer. The pod was intact. Advanced Lazerian healing tech, sacred among their people, untouched amidst the destruction. Brian raised an eyebrow. Sacred as ineffective, or sacred as in might summon ancient gods, both perhaps, Kira whispered. Her storm grey eyes meeting his. It forms a temporary biological bond, intimate, permanent. Brian paused, weighing the risk. You worth it, he said, stepping inside. The chamber activated. Brilliant light. Energy flowing like liquid fire, merging consciousness. Brian felt her essence. Kira felt his protectiveness and courage. They were no longer alone. To species, to wills, bound by survival and human determination. Minutes passed like eternities. When the light faded, Brian helped Kira stand. Good different, he asked. I can feel everything, she said, awed. You, all of you? The battlefield remained dangerous, but together they were unstoppable. Their bond had begun a spark of human ingenuity, courage, and the enduring spirit of survival. Brian Carter's boots crunched over twisted metal and scorched earth as he carried Kira Banis through the shattered remains of the battlefield. Her healing bond pulsed against his chest, a strange warmth mingling with the adrenaline coursing. Through him, the Dranid assault was far from over. Smoke and fire clawed at the horizon, silhouettes of destroyed vehicles and fallen drones marking the path of humanity's perseverance. Every step forward was a defiance of the odds, a testament to human ingenuity under fire. North sector, Kira murmured, her voice faint but precise, 3 boogies on the ridge. To more near the debris heap, watch for flankers. Brian's HUD picked up their signatures, confirming her assessments. He ducked behind a collapsed mech, adjusting her position carefully. How do you stay so calm? He asked, scanning for cover. Observation, she said, her storm grey eyes narrowing. Pain is secondary when survival is primary. Brian grinned, muscles straining as he sprinted from cover to cover. The Dranids weren't just numerous, they were methodical, hunting in triangular formations, cutting off retreat paths with precision. But human adaptability, augmented by Lazerian insights, made the difference. He shifted Kira slightly, her silver hair brushing against his cheek, and felt the bond between them amplify his senses. He could almost predict enemy movements before. Their sensors detected them. A plasma volley tore through the air ahead. Brian dove, rolling to absorb the impact while simultaneously dragging Kira into the shadow of a toppled command turret. Sparks erupted where the bolts struck metal, and the heat singed the edge of his helmet. Close, he muttered, checking his tactical display. 5 Dranids down, 3 more flanking. Kira's hand pressed against his shoulder instinctively. 2 o'clock, she warned. Their armor junction weak. One precise shot, boom. Brian's rifle hummed as he lined up the target. The first shot hit perfectly. The enemy unit convulsed as energy discharge overloaded its systems, and more fell to collateral damage. Good intel, he murmured. Keep it coming, warrior. Not bad for a human, she said, her voice a playful lilt despite the chaos. You anticipate better than most of my people. Brian smirked, scanning the rubble-strewn streets. Humans are adaptive. Never underestimate a Marine under fire. They moved through the debris field like shadows, Brian's augmented muscles carrying Kira with ease. Every movement synchronized through their shared bond. Her tactical insights were invaluable, identifying ambush points, noting structural weaknesses, and calculating enemy approach vectors. His human ingenuity blended with her Lazerian precision, creating a lethal partnership that neither species had anticipated. A burning transport loomed ahead, partially collapsed, fuel cells leaking. Brian's sensors flared caution. That's our next checkpoint. Medical pods potentially intact. Worth the risk? She asked, curiosity threading through pain. I trust your judgment, he said, adjusting his grip. We'll find out. They approached cautiously, using remnants of armored vehicles as cover. Plasma bolts sizzled overhead and debris rained around them from nearby explosions. The transport's emergency lights flickered, casting eerie blue shadows across Kira's hair. Brian's tactical HUD revealed multiple enemy signatures converging fast. Their time was limited. Kira's voice softened. You realize the energy surge from that pod will make us visible to every Dranid within 10 clicks? Brian grinned despite the danger. Been a while since I threw a proper party. Besides, I've always liked a crowd. The pod itself was intact. Advanced Lazerian healing technology, sacred and precise, capable of merging their biologies temporarily. Brian raised an eyebrow. Sacred as in effective or sacred as in summon ancient gods? Both. Perhaps, she said, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. It forms a biological bond stronger than anything human or Lazerian tradition can explain. Temporary, yet permanent in ways you won't understand until we try. Brian's grin widened. You're worth the risk. He activated the pod's interface, careful to align their bodies according to Kira's guidance. Brilliant energy enveloped them. Light flowed through him like liquid fire. Pain and adrenaline twisting into an odd, euphoric awareness. He felt her essence, her thoughts, her tactical calculations. She felt his courage, his protectiveness, and something primal human ingenuity fused with Lazerian experience. Minutes passed like seconds. Their movements became synchronized, their awareness shared. Brian could anticipate Kira's tactical suggestions before she vocalized them. She could feel his instinctive reactions to threats. Their shared bond was not just physical, it was strategic, emotional, and instinctive. Together, they were more than a human and a Lazerian. They were a single, unstoppable unit. An explosion rocked a nearby transport. Brian and Kira rolled into cover. Plasma fire seared past them, and he felt her thoughts flicker with urgency. Left flank 3 hostiles. Quick! Brian fired instinctively. Energy bolts tearing through armor at weak points she identified. Kira's blade slashed with deadly precision, deflecting incoming fire and eliminating enemies before their systems could react. They moved like a single organism, seamlessly blending offensive and defensive tactics. Ever think humans and Lazerian warriors could fight this well together? He asked, breath ragged. She let out a short laugh. I did not. But here we are. They reached the transport's interior. Sparks flew from exposed wiring. Fuel cells hissed ominously. Brian positioned Kira near the med station interface while maintaining a 360-degree scan for enemies. Pod's operational, he said. Time to stabilize your spine. The pod hummed to life. Brilliant blue energy enveloped Kira, the bond intensifying. Brian could feel her neural impulses merging with his own reflexes. Her senses now expanded. His awareness, his strategic improvisation strengthened her physical recovery. Every breath, every pulse, every thought shared. They were unstoppable. Minutes later, Kira's hands twitched. Legs moving, she whispered, I can feel you, all of you. Brian helped her stand. Good different. She smiled, storm grey eyes bright with newfound strength, exhilarating, terrifying, human. I'm impressed. Brian glanced down the ruined battlefield, noting their tactical advantage. Ready to move, always, Kira replied. Her enhanced senses guided them past remaining Dranid patrols, each step forward. They grew stronger not just in body, but in coordination, in trust. In human Lazerian synergy, every enemy encounter became a testament to the human spirit, ingenuity, and courage. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but now they faced it as one. Brian's determination, Kira's skill, and the bond they had forged in fire and light ensured they were more than survivors. They were humanity's testament to HFY, against overwhelming odds. They moved forward, unstoppable and unbroken. The battlefield stretched before Brian Carter like a scarred wound on the planet's surface. Smoke coiled into the sky, black and silver ribbons twisting over shattered buildings and scorched craters. Kira Banis, now standing firmly on her heeled legs, scanned the horizon with her storm-grey eyes, every movement precise, every sense sharpened by the bond they shared. She adjusted her blade, its energy matrix humming in quiet harmony with Brian's plasma rifle. Together, they were no longer just human and Lazerian, they were a single fighting entity. Brian crouched behind the wreckage of a downed Marauder mech, checking his tactical display. Dranid patrols moved in deliberate patterns, testing the limits of human endurance. We can't stay exposed much longer, he muttered. If they call reinforcements, we're sitting ducks. Kira's gaze swept across the terrain. We need to disrupt their advance. I can identify structural weaknesses in their forward positions. You hit hard while I coordinate. Timing is everything. Brian smirked. Always tactical, huh? Guess it runs in the genes. He shifted, placing Kira's weight on his shoulder as they prepared to move. Every step they took was synchronized, a silent communication that needed no words. Their shared awareness allowed them to anticipate ambushes, calculate enemy reactions, and respond before the Dranids even realized they were being targeted. They advanced toward the enemy's forward outpost, twisted metal and fire littering their path. Plasma bolts hissed past them, scouring the ground. Brian's reflexes were augmented by the bond. He fired instinctively, each shot finding its mark with unerring accuracy. Kira moved like a shadow alongside him, her energy blade slicing through. Armor plating with surgical precision, 3 Dranids at the northern ridge, weak armor junctions. Kira murmured. Brian lined up the shots. Boom. One fell. Another exploded. The third tried to flank them, but Brian anticipated its movement and countered before it reached firing range. Nice work, he said, adjusting his rifle. You make this look easy. Easy isn't the word I'd use. Kira said, her lips curling into a faint smile. Controlled, yes. Calculated. Survival. Guaranteed. The path ahead narrowed. They reached a partially collapsed communications tower, its metal beams twisted and sparking. Brian's HUD detected energy surges within. Dranid communications relay, he noted. If we take this out, we disrupt their coordination. Kira's eyes gleamed. Exactly my thought. But we'll need to split their attention. Brian nodded. On 3, ready. They moved with flawless coordination. Brian sprinted to the base of the tower, taking cover behind debris while plasma bolts streaked past. Kira leapt onto the rubble, her blade humming, slicing through control panels and shielding energy nodes. Her movements were elegant yet lethal, the bond allowing Brian to anticipate her next strike and provide covering fire. Simultaneously, explosions erupted as energy conduits overloaded. Sparks and molten metal rained down the Dranid soldiers, momentarily blinded and disoriented. Brian's tactical display showed enemy reinforcements approaching, to squads converging from the south. Flankers. Kira's grip tightened on her blade. I see them, 3 o'clock, weak junction at the shoulder nodes. focus fire, precise shots only. Brian fired, each bolt guided by the bond's shared awareness. Kira's strikes cut down their numbers with deadly efficiency. Together, they dismantled the enemy's command post in minutes that felt like seconds. The Dranid's structured formations collapsed under human adaptability and Lazerian insight. Brian scanned the field, catching movement on the ridge. More incoming. Fast! Kira's eyes narrowed. We create a choke point. They can't overwhelm us if we control the terrain. They moved swiftly, using debris and destroyed vehicles as natural cover. Every shot, every step was a combination of instinct, strategy, and the bond's shared perception. The Dranids were relentless, but Brian's ingenuity and Kira's warrior discipline turned the tide. Each enemy that approached became a testament to human ingenuity, a demonstration of what could be achieved when species collaborated rather than relied solely on brute force. Suddenly, a massive Dranid war. Mech appeared, its energy cannons charging. Brian's HUD flashed alerts. That's not standard unit. Heavy armor, multiple plasma nodes. One hit could end us. Kira's hand brushed his shoulder instinctively. We can't engage it head-on. Weak points, rear power core, side exhaust vents. Distract, flank, precision strike. Brian grinned. Sounds like a plan. Let's dance, warrior. They moved like shadows, weaving through smoke and rubble. Kira's blade deflected incoming fire while Brian targeted the mech's vulnerabilities. Plasma bolts. Hit power nodes. Energy sparks cascading across the metal frame. The mech staggered. Kira's strike severed its energy conduit, causing a chain reaction that detonated the core. The explosion rocked the battlefield, but Brian and Kira emerged unscathed, their bond keeping them perfectly synchronized. Breathing heavily, Brian glanced at her. We're unstoppable together, you know that? She chuckled. The sound faint but melodic amid the chaos. Unstoppable, perhaps. Foolish, possibly. But we survive, and that's what counts. They advanced further into Dranid territory, their presence a ghostly force dismantling enemy positions. Each victory reinforced their shared awareness, pushing the limits of human Lazerian cooperation. They cleared a ruined forward base, salvaging energy cells and weapons. Kira accessed the Dranid tactical data, feeding it through the bond. We can anticipate their next moves. They underestimate us, they always do. Brian nodded. Underestimate. Humanity at your peril. We adapt, improvise, and conquer. A faint glow in the distance caught Brian's eye. That's our next target enemy supply depot. Taking it will cripple their forward operations. Kira's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. Then we advance, Sergeant. One step at a time, one victory at a time. Together, Brian adjusted his rifle, feeling the bond pulse with quiet intensity. Let's show them what humans and Lazerian warriors can do. When we refused to surrender, with that, they sprinted. Forward, moving as one entity, adaptive, relentless, and indomitable. The battlefield ahead was vast. The Dranids still a formidable foe, but Brian and Kira's bond made them more than soldiers. They were a force that defied impossible odds, a living testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the HFY spirit that could turn despair into triumph through ash and fire. They advanced, ready to dismantle the Dranid war machine piece by piece. They combined strength, the promise of survival, and a future where humanity could stand unbowed, no matter the alien threat. The distant glow of the Dranid supply depot flickered like a heartbeat. Across the smoke-choked plains, Brian Carter crouched behind a fallen orbital transport, his tactical display flickering under the interference of the battle-scarred environment. Beside him, Kira Banis adjusted the alignment of her energy blade, the hum resonating in quiet synchrony with Brian's plasma rifle. Their bond pulsed, a shared awareness that allowed them to anticipate each other's movements. To act as a singular entity amidst the chaos, they fortified the perimeter, Kira whispered, her storm grey eyes scanning the depot through the settling haze, plasma turrets, automated sentries, and at least a heavy Dranid war walkers. Head-on assault would be suicide. Brian smirked, tightening his grip on the rifle. Good thing I never liked suicide missions without a little style. What's your plan, warrior princess? Kira's lips quirked into a faint smile. Divide and conquer. I'll disable their automated defenses while you provide precision strikes. We create a blind spot. Hit the supply lines and extract before they can regroup. Brian nodded, the bond amplifying their coordination. Every microsecond of planning was synchronized. He glanced at the ridge above, noting a narrow passage where debris formed natural cover. We move there. Minimal exposure. Maximum leverage. They sprinted across the scorched plain, dodging plasma fire and debris, their movements seamless, each anticipating the other's action. Brian's rifle fired in short, calculated bursts, taking out patrols before they could alert the garrison. Kira's blade sliced through shielding and armor plating, disabling turrets in a precision dance that left the Dranids bewildered. 3 heavy units at the northern flank, Kira murmured. Shoulder nodes weak, but heavily armored elsewhere. One misstep and we're toast. Brian's HUD highlighted the targets. Leave the flankers to me. You focus on the turrets. Let's make it quick and clean. Plasma bolts zipped across the battlefield, striking their designated targets with uncanny accuracy. Kira leapt from rubble to rubble, her blade emitting radiant arcs of energy that disarmed sentries and cut through energy conduits. Brian moved in tandem, each shot synchronized with her strikes, each movement enhancing the other dot and explosion. Rocked the depot as the first heavy war walker went down, its power core detonating in a dazzling plume of fire and molten metal. Nice work, Brian said, scanning for reinforcements. They're getting sloppy. We can push forward. Kira's eyes gleamed. They underestimated our bond. They don't realize that together we're more than just human and Lazerian. We're a coordinated force multiplier. Brian grinned, feeling the bond pulse with quiet strength. Then let's multiply, they advanced, using the debris-strewn terrain for cover. Energy bolts and plasma fire zipped past them, each narrowly avoided thanks to their shared awareness. Brian calculated trajectories, Kira identified structural weak points, and together they dismantled the outer defenses with surgical precision. Suddenly, a reinforced gate blocked their path, bristling with energy shields and automated defense. Nodes. Brian crouched, scanning for vulnerabilities. We need a breach. Weak point. Kira's hand brushed his shoulder instinctively. Exhaust vent at the base. Small, but enough for a charge. Timing critical. One miscalculation and the explosion could collapse the entire depot on us. Brian's grin widened. Perfect. Let's dance. They moved as one. Brian placed charges with methodical speed while Kira provided cover, her energy blade humming. In anticipation, as the last charge was set, Brian counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. The explosion erupted, sending metal and fire into the air. The energy shields collapsed, and the reinforced gate twisted into molten ruins. Entry secured, Brian said, motioning for Kira to follow inside. The depot was a labyrinth of storage units, weapon caches, and energy supply nodes. Dranid soldiers scrambled to respond, but the synchronized bond between Brian and Kira was already at work. Plasma bolts zipped through hallways, energy blades sliced corridors open, and their combined awareness allowed them to anticipate enemy movements. Before the Dranids could act, they've got a command node in the center. Kira noted, her eyes scanning the holographic map. If we disable it, the entire depot will be paralyzed. But heavily guarded reinforcements incoming in under 2 minutes. Brian nodded, adjusting his tactical display. We'll split. You take the central node, I'll cover the perimeter. And intercept reinforcements, keep it tight. Timing is everything. Kira's nod was subtle but confident. Understood. Let's make them regret underestimating humans and Lazerian warriors. Brian moved through corridors with calculated precision, taking out patrols with short bursts of plasma fire. Kira advanced toward the central node, her blade cutting through reinforced doors and security panels. Their shared awareness allowed them to act in perfect harmony, Brian covering angles Kira couldn't see, Kira disabling threats Brian hadn't. Anticipated. The Dranids launched a counterattack. A squad of heavily armored infantry accompanied by a smaller war mech. Brian's HUD highlighted their weak points, flankers approaching. Shoulder nodes and exhaust vents weakest spots, precision only. Kira's blade hummed as she intercepted the first wave. Brian fired. Each bolt coordinated with her movements. The war mech staggered under the combined assault. Nice coordination, he said, ducking as plasma fire zipped past. Kira's eyes met his for a fleeting moment. You're quick, human, but I've got your back. Brian grinned. And I've got yours, always. The central node loomed. Ahead, heavily shielded but not invulnerable, Kira extended her senses through the bond, identifying the optimal pathway and security gaps. 3 seconds to breach. Ready. Brian adjusted his position, plasma rifle humming. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's finish this. With a synchronized push, Kira's blade severed the final shielding conduit while Brian's plasma bolts neutralized the command node's defense matrix. The depot's systems faltered, energy supply lines collapsed, and Dranid communications went dark. Reinforcements were left disoriented, scattered, and vulnerable. Brian moved to join Kira, watching as her blade hummed with residual energy. Depot secured. Nicely done, he said, scanning for remaining threats. Kira's storm grey eyes gleamed. We make a good team, human. Our bond, our connection, it amplifies everything. Makes us unstoppable. Brian nodded, feeling the pulse of their shared awareness. Unstoppable, huh? That's the human fighter spirit. HFY in action as they cleared the depot, salvaging energy cells and weapons. Brian's tactical display picked up a distant signal, a massive Dranid counteroffensive mobilizing. Looks like the war's far from over, he said, adjusting his rifle. Kira's hand brushed his shoulder. A quiet reminder of their bond. Then we advance. Together. One battle at a time. One victory at a time. Brian smiled, letting the bond guide his instincts. Then let's show them what humans and Lazerian warriors can achieve when they fight as one. HFY. Indeed. Through the rubble-strewn corridors under the smoke-darkened sky, they moved forward. Together. Adaptive, relentless, and indomitable. Each victory a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the spirit that refused to bow before impossible odds. The ruins of the Dranid supply depot still smoldered behind them as Brian Carter and Kira Banis advanced across the desolate plains. The bond between them pulsed in perfect synchrony, heightening every sense, every reflex. Their shared awareness had transformed them from two warriors into a single, seamless force. Every step, every breath, every calculated motion was in harmony. Kira. The data logs from the depot show an active command hub less than 10 clicks east, Brian said, scanning the holographic overlay of the battlefield. Heavy security. But it looks like we can slip in undetected if we move smart. Kira's eyes, storm grey and sharp as a hawk's, glinted in the dying light. I've analyzed patrol routes. They rotate in predictable cycles. But the hub's inner defenses are adaptive. It won't be simple. Brian smirked. Since when did simple ever stop us? The plains opened into a canyon littered with the wreckage of Dranid convoys. Plasma arcs from distant skirmishes painted the horizon in eerie bursts of light. Brian and Kira crouched behind the remains of a fallen transport, observing the command hub perched atop a jagged ridge like a fortress carved from metal and fire. They've got automated sentries and motion-triggered energy fields. Any direct approach triggers a cascade of alarms, Kira noted. Her hand brushed Brian's shoulder. We'll have to go vertical, use the old maintenance shafts, small, tight, and unseen. Brian's augmented muscles tensed as he surveyed the ridge. I like it. Ghosts in the shadows. Classic HFY style. Moving with predatory grace, Kira led the way through the rocky terrain, her blade humming softly, ready to disable any automated defenses that might catch them. Brian followed closely, plasma rifle scanning every corridor, every shadow, every flicker of movement. They reached a partially collapsed maintenance hatch. Kira extended her sensors through the bond, detecting structural weaknesses in the debris. We'll need to lift this panel and move fast. Guards rotate in 3, 2, 1. Brian shifted, planting his augmented strength against the hatch. lifting it just enough for them to slip inside. The tight shaft smelled of scorched metal and coolant. Every step echoed faintly, yet neither made a sound beyond the soft hum of their weapons' central nodes close. Kira whispered, her blade cutting through a rusted grate ahead. Once inside, we split. You cover the perimeter, I disable the core systems. Timing is everything. Brian nodded. Cover your 6 and I'll keep them off balance. Our bond makes us untouchable. Right? A faint pulse of energy radiated from the walls as the shaft opened into the hub's lower levels. Automated patrol drones hummed in the darkness, sensors scanning the corridors. Brian's tactical display flared to approaching drones, armed with plasma turrets. Engage. Brian murmured, instinctively coordinating with Kira. Plasma bolts zipped through the hallways, synchronized with Kira's blade strikes that tore through conduits and disabled drones mid-flight. Every movement calculated, every strike amplified by their bond. Their dance of destruction was fluid and lethal. They've adapted some of the defenses based on our previous raid, Kira said, scanning a console as she disabled energy locks. But they underestimate human intuition combined with Lazerian foresight. Brian grinned. HFY, baby. Outthink, outfight, outlast. That's our motto. Deeper into the hub, the corridors twisted like a labyrinth. Sensors flickered, and alarms threatened to trigger at every corner. Brian and Kira moved with silent precision, each anticipating the other's actions before they happened. Even when a patrol squad appeared around a corner, they were already accounted for. Brian's plasma rifle cutting down the lead drone, while Kira's blade disabled the energy barrier that could have trapped them. Command center in sight. Kira whispered, fingers tracing a holographic map. We're moments away from the core systems, but heavy Dranid reinforcements are on approach. 5 minutes at most before they respond. Brian checked his rifle and the tactical display. We'll take it in stages. Split entry, me on perimeter, you on the core. Coordinated strike. The command hubs in a chamber shimmered with energy fields and holographic displays. Dranid officers patrolled the periphery, unaware of the intruders already inside the outer halls. Brian signaled Kira, their bond pulsing in anticipation. They moved as one, a shadow within shadows. Brian's plasma rifle took precise shots, neutralizing guards before alarms could even trigger. Kira's blade danced through energy locks and reinforced panels, carving a path toward the central console. 3 heavy infantry units approaching the core. Brian warned. Shoulder joints weak, shields adaptive, precision only. Kira's storm grey eyes narrowed. Understood. I'll draw them in, you finish them off. One coordinated strike. We can't afford mistakes. The first wave appeared, massive and armored. Brian's rifle hummed in tandem with Kira's blade. She leapt forward, cutting through power conduits to disable shielding, while Brian's plasma bolts hit the infantry's vulnerable joints. Sparks flew, armor shredded, and in seconds, the corridor was silent once more. They didn't see us coming, Brian muttered. Classic HFY move, outnumbered, outgunned, but never outwitted. Kira smiled, her blade pulsing. We make a good team. Human ingenuity, Lazerian precision. It's unstoppable. Finally, they reached the central node. Kira placed her fingers on the holographic interface, extending her senses through the bond to manipulate the hub's systems. Brian kept watch, scanning for any reinforcements, ready to intercept with lethal efficiency. The core systems are mine, Kira murmured. It's time to turn their defenses against them. Prepare for maximum disruption. Brian adjusted his stance. Cover me while I recalibrate the secondary pulse generators. We'll overload their shields and scramble their communication arrays simultaneously. Energy fields surged, lights flickered, and alarms screamed, but the Dranid reinforcements found themselves disabled before they could even react. Brian and Kira moved in flawless synchronization, every action enhancing the other. Their bond a conduit of strategy and execution. That transcended species, the command hub, once a bastion of Dranid control, now fell under their influence. Systems blinked erratically as Kira rerouted energy matrices. and Brian fired carefully timed plasma discharges to disable residual defenses. The hub's automated sentries turned against one another, confused and malfunctioning. Command secured, Brian breathed, finally allowing himself a brief smile. Depot 2 hub, we're unstoppable. Kira's eyes gleamed, storm grey and radiant. This is HFY in action. Against all odds, humanity and its allies prevail. One victory at a time. As they exfiltrated the hub, salvaging data cores and advanced weapon schematics, Brian glanced at Kira. Next stop, Kira's lips curved in a faint, confident smile. Wherever they think we can't reach. But together, there's no limit. And with that, they disappeared into the shadowed corridors of the Dranid war zone to warriors. One bond, unstoppable. HFY alive in every move, every thought, every pulse of their shared consciousness. The Dranid command nexus loomed ahead, a fortress of jagged steel and pulsating energy. Perched on the edge of the volcanic plateau, smoke and plasma arcs streaked the sky as Brian Carter and Kira Banis approached, their bond heightening every sense, every heartbeat, every instinct. The battlefield below was littered with debris from previous skirmishes, but the hub itself remained intact, a bastion of enemy power. Central node is active, Brian said, checking his tactical display. They've fortified it with adaptive energy shields and automated sentries. Entry without careful planning equals death. Kira's storm grey eyes glinted with determination. We've got an advantage. They're expecting frontal assaults. They won't anticipate an infiltration from the lower maintenance tunnels. Our bond gives us an edge, Brian. We can move as one. He nodded, muscles tensing. Time to remind them why humanity and its allies never back down. HFY, right? Descending into the shadowed maintenance shafts, the narrow corridor smelled of scorched metal and burning coolant. Every step echoed faintly, yet neither made a sound beyond the soft hum of their weapons. Brian led, plasma rifle raised, augmented senses scanning for traps. Kira's blade emitted a faint violet glow, slicing through rusted panels and energy conduits that obstructed their path. Multiple hostiles approaching, Brian whispered, the tactical display highlighting 5 Dranid patrol units converging near the hub's perimeter. Kira's voice, melodic but firm, resonated in his mind through their bond. Weak points in armor, joint connections, shoulder helmet junctions, precision only. I'll guide you. They emerged into a dark corridor. Beneath the hub, automated sentries patrolled, their sensors sweeping methodically. Brian and Kira moved like shadows, silent and coordinated. A plasma bolt seared past where they had been seconds before, narrowly missing. Kira's hand brushed his shoulder. Timing is everything. Wait for the pulse and move together. Brian's muscles coiled. Got it. On your mark. With a shared thought, they advanced, every action synchronized. Brian's rifle discharged, plasma bolts slicing through sentries while Kira's blade danced, severing power conduits and disabling energy locks. Sparks rained down as automated drones misfired, caught in the chaos they created. They're adapting, Kira muttered. The Nexus core systems are rerouting energy to shields in real time. We need to overload the Matrix, Brian smirked. That's why we don't just fight, we think. HFY. They reached the inner chamber walls, lined with energy conduits and holographic interfaces. Dranid officers barked commands, unaware of the intruders weaving through their defenses. Brian signaled Kira, bond pulsing with anticipation. Ready for synchronized strike, he whispered. Always, Kira replied. Plasma bolts flared, as Brian neutralized guards with pinpoint accuracy. Kira's blade surged with violet light, disabling the shield nodes while cutting through reinforced panels. Their movements were seamless, anticipating each other, responding to threats before they even emerged. The bond enhanced their tactical awareness, giving them the upper hand against superior numbers. 5 more infantry units approaching the core, Brian warned. Shoulder joints weak. Adaptive shields, precision, no mistakes. Kira's storm grey. Eyes narrowed. Understood. I'll draw them in, you finish. One coordinated strike. The infantry charged, massive and armored. Brian's rifle hummed in perfect sync with Kira's blade. Plasma bolts and energy strikes tore through the units. Shields collapsing, armor disintegrating. Sparks and smoke filled the corridor. Yet neither flinched. Their bond transformed chaos into calculated execution. They underestimated us, Brian muttered. Classic HFY. Outnumbered, outgunned, but never outwitted. Kira's lips curved in a faint smile. Human intuition and Lazerian foresight. Unstoppable together. Reaching the central console. Kira placed her fingers on the holographic interface. Through their bond, she extended her awareness into the Nexus systems. Brian covered the perimeter, his rifle ready for reinforcements. The core systems are mine. Kira whispered. Time to turn their defenses against them. Energy fields surged, lights flickered, and alarms blared, but the Dranid reinforcements were neutralized before they could respond. Automated sentries malfunctioned, turning against one another. Brian and Kira moved like predators in the dark, every step amplified by their shared consciousness. Command secured, Brian breathed, finally allowing a grin. Depot to hub, we're unstoppable. Kira's eyes gleamed, HFY in action. Against all odds, humanity and its allies prevail. One victory at a time. They began exfiltrating the Nexus, salvaging critical data cores and weapon schematics. Brian glanced at Kira. Next target, she smiled, a mix of pride and confidence. Wherever they think we can't reach, together, there's no limit. Their bond pulsed as they moved through the hub's corridors. Every plasma bolt, every energy cut, every tactical decision flowed through them as one. HFY alive in each calculated move, in every shared thought. They were not just soldiers, they were the embodiment of human resilience and Lazerian ingenuity. A living testament to the power of cooperation across species. The Dranid had underestimated the force that two connected minds could unleash. Their hub, once impregnable, now fell under their control. Automated systems obeyed their will. Defenses turned inward and enemy strategies collapsed. Brian and Kira moved like shadows, leaving only chaos in their wake. Command Nexus is ours, Brian said, checking his display. Data cores secured. We've turned their weapons against them, and their soldiers are disoriented. HFY style. Kira's storm grey eyes met his. We make history today. Human and Lazerian together. Unstoppable. And as they slipped from the hub into the night, shadows embracing their forms, Brian knew one thing with certainty: as long as they fought as one, no force in the galaxy could stand against them. HFY was not just a battle cry, it was their legacy. The scorched horizon trembled as the Dranid Armada approached, massive warships cutting through the atmosphere like jagged black comets. Brian Carter and Kira Banis stood atop the plateau, overlooking the ruined Nexus below, their bond humming with anticipation. Every heartbeat, every breath, every instinct was amplified by their connection. HFY humanity's defiance in the face of cosmic odds throbbing in their veins. Command channels are silent, Brian said, eyes scanning the tactical overlay. They've quarantined all communication. We're on our own. Kira adjusted, her blade, the violet light casting an eerie glow on her storm grey eyes. Good, less interference, more control. HFY in action. We've got advantage, terrain, bond, and adaptability. Their fleet isn't prepared for us. Brian smirked, tightening the straps of his Mark 7 plasma rifle. Time to remind them why they fear human ingenuity. They sprinted along the plateau's ridges, moving like shadows over volcanic rock. Explosions from the Nexus rippled behind them. Dranid reinforcements scrambling to respond to the automated defenses Brian and Kira had unleashed. The air reeked of ozone and molten metal, the distant screech of energy weapons echoing across the canyon. Multiple strike drones inbound, Brian warned. Tactical display highlighting 5 approaching units. Adaptive shielding target their weak points. I'll cover you. Kira's lips curved in a faint smile. I like that plan. Human, synchronize our strikes, HFY style. The first drone dove from above, plasma cannons blazing. Brian fired, plasma bolts tearing through the air while Kira's blade danced. slicing energy conduits mid-flight. Sparks and molten metal rained down as the drone spiraled into the canyon below. Their bond allowed perfect timing every dodge, every counter, every calculated shot in seamless harmony. They've adapted their formation. Kira noted, storm grey eyes scanning the swarm. Triangular sweep pattern, classic Dranid maneuver. Flankers on the periphery. I'll guide you through it. Brian adjusted his stance. Lead the way, partner. HFY is not just survival, it's domination. They maneuvered through the swarm. Kira's blade deflecting plasma bursts while Brian's rifle punctured weak points in the drones. Armor. Automated turrets from the nexus below fired in sync with their strikes, creating a deadly ballet of destruction. Their bond allowed anticipation. Brian knew the path before Kira moved. Kira predicted threats Brian hadn't even registered. To more incoming, Brian whispered, scanning the horizon. Heavy class aerial units. Their armor is nearly impervious to standard plasma. Kira's eyes gleamed. We improvise. Focused pulse at energy junctions just like we did in the Nexus. I'll mark them with precise coordination. Brian charged a high-intensity plasma shot while Kira extended her blade's energy into the air. The first unit exploded mid-flight, energy cascading into the second, causing chain reactions. Smoke and debris filled the canyon as the armadas advanced slowed. They underestimate us, Brian muttered. Classic HFY. Outnumbered, outgunned, but never out-innovated. Kira chuckled, her mental touch brushing against his. And that's why we win. Together, nothing is impossible. They continued their ascent toward the Armada's orbital drop points. Below them, automated systems they had hacked into the Dranid network continued to sow chaos among the enemy ranks. Every strike they made echoed through the Dranid hierarchy, confusion spreading like wildfire. Orbital sensors online. Brian noted, we've got 30 seconds before the first wave deploys. Plan? Disrupt their deployment sequences, Kira said, fingers tracing the air over her portable holo interface. We overload the launch bays, reroute power to defense turrets. Their own weapons will obliterate the transports before they reach the surface. HFY precision. Brian's enhanced muscles tensed. Copy. I'll create cover fire while you hack. Ready on your mark. The first transport descended, energy shields flickering under automated turrets' fire. Brian unleashed a salvo of plasma bolts, striking weak points and disabling launch sequences. Kira's blade extended streams of violet energy into the interface, rerouting power and overriding protocols. Sparks erupted from the transports as their own armaments fired in the wrong directions, destroying each other in chaotic brilliance. They're panicking, Brian said, scanning the tactical display. Orbital fleet is fragmented. The rest are scrambling to respond. Kira's storm grey eyes met his. Exactly. HFY thrives in chaos. Adaptability, creativity, courage, not brute force. That's our edge. The final wave of strike drones veered toward them, desperate to salvage control. Brian and Kira moved in perfect unison, plasma and blade strikes combining in a deadly rhythm. Every drone that approached was neutralized, the battlefield a controlled storm of destruction. Central transport baylocked. Kira shouted, time to finish this. Overload the fusion core. Brian grinned. Lead the way, Lazerian warrior. They sprinted toward the core, dodging collapsing debris and errant energy blasts. Brian fired with surgical precision, Kira slicing energy. Conduits that powered defensive grids. The fusion core glowed ominously as they approached, and Kira's mental touch guided Brian to the exact junctions needed. Now, she shouted. Brian discharged a concentrated plasma pulse, while Kira's blade surged through the core's energy. Matrix. The resulting explosion cascaded outward, not destructive enough to collapse the plateau, but sufficient to permanently disable the orbital deployment systems. Transport ships plummeted, scattered by the chaos they had created, while the Dranid Armada reeled in confusion. Command Nexus secure. Armada neutralized, Brian said, breathing heavily. HFY in full effect. Kira's lips curved in. triumph, and just in time. The Alliance is watching. We've shown what cooperation between species human and Lazerian can achieve. Unstoppable together. Brian glanced at the horizon where the first rays of dawn cut through the smoke. Next target. Kira's storm-grey eyes gleamed with anticipation. Anywhere they think we can't reach, anywhere they believe they're safe, HFY never sleeps. And as they descended from the plateau, shadows embracing their forms, Brian knew one thing with certainty: humanity's courage, ingenuity, and alliance with its allies were not just surviving, they were reshaping the galaxy. HFY wasn't a slogan, it was reality. The smouldering horizon still glowed from the chaos Brian and Kira had unleashed. But there was no time to rest. The Dranid Armada might have been stalled, but their central core, the heart of Dranid Command, remained operational, a looming fortress of dark metal and pulsing energy. Every system it controlled rippled through the fleets, guiding strategies, monitoring defenses, orchestrating war. HFY demanded they strike now. "We can't let them regroup," Brian said, adjusting the plasma rifle's energy output. The weapon hummed against his shoulder like a living entity. "If the core comes online fully, all we accomplished will be undone." Kira's storm-grey eyes scanned the terrain below. Agreed. Infiltrate. Disable. Extract. We've got the element of surprise, and with our bond, we operate as one. HFY thrives on ingenuity and adaptability, not numbers. Brian smirked. "That's why we're still alive, partner. Let's go remind them why humanity and its allies refused to yield." They descended the plateau, moving through jagged ridges and molten rock, the air filled with the acrid scent of scorched metal and energy residue. The Dranid core loomed closer, its walls pulsating with violet energy, tendrils of light stretching outward like veins connecting to the entire armada. "Security drones active," Brian whispered, tactical display highlighting automated patrols. "Flankers at 10 o'clock, aerial recon units at 2. HFY improvisation required." Kira's fingers brushed over the interface of her portable holo device. "Deploying electromagnetic pulse decoys. It'll scramble their sensors temporarily. We move in during the window." Plasma bursts streaked across the sky as they activated the decoys. Drones flickered, their targeting systems disrupted. Brian and Kira sprinted across open terrain, dodging collapsing energy pylons and debris from earlier skirmishes. Their movements were fluid, perfectly synchronized, the bond amplifying every reflex, every calculation. "To more aerial units inbound," Brian murmured, tracking them with enhanced vision. "I'll draw them away. You focus on core access." Kira's violet energy blades extended, split and converge. HFY-style teamwork. "I'll guide you mentally." Brian fired a rapid volley of plasma, striking the lead unit's weak points. Sparks and molten metal rained down as the drones faltered, colliding into one another. Kira's blades carved through the air, disabling the remaining units with precision. Their bond allowed anticipatory coordination. Brian knew exactly when to shoot. Kira predicted every evasive maneuver the drones attempted. "The gateway's just ahead," Kira said, scanning the core's perimeter. "Heavy energy fields, automated turrets, and power conduits. HFY doesn't fear obstacles, it improvises." Brian grinned. "Then let's improvise." They approached the core's main entrance, plasma rifles and energy blades ready. The air thrummed with energy, the hum of Dranid systems vibrating through the ground. Brian activated his suit's augmented sensors, detecting subtle fluctuations in the field weak points to exploit. "Pressure nodes at irregular intervals," he whispered. "I can create a temporary window if I overload them." Kira's fingers danced over the holo interface. "I'll synchronize with you, amplifying your signal." HFY precision requires coordination. Timing is everything. Brian's pulse quickened as he discharged a controlled plasma surge at the first node. Kira extending her energy blades to stabilize the conduit. Sparks erupted, and a portion of the energy barrier shimmered and collapsed. "Move," Kira shouted. They sprinted through the opening, dodging automated turrets that pivoted with deadly accuracy. Brian's plasma rifle tore through incoming fire while Kira's blades deflected energy pulses, creating a protective corridor. Inside, The Dranid core was a cathedral of alien technology walls lined with pulsing conduits, holographic interfaces, projecting the fleet's movements and central power nodes radiating pure energy. Every detail screamed alien sophistication, but HFY demanded adaptability, courage, and creativity. The main console, Kira said, pointing to the central node, "Overload it. Disrupt command protocols and we neutralize the armada. Timing will be critical." Brian nodded, plasma rifle aimed, sensors mapping the node's weak points. "On your mark." Kira extended her energy blades, interfacing with the console. Now, Brian fired a precision burst at the first energy junction. Sparks flew, the console's lights flickering. Kira's blades sliced through conduits, rerouting power to destabilize the system. Energy arcs danced around them, illuminating the alien chamber in violet and gold. "Almost there," Kira murmured, storm gray eyes fixed on the console. One more sequence HFY improvisation required. Brian adjusted his stance, calculating the exact angle for the final plasma shot. "Cover me!" With a synchronized surge, Brian fired while Kira extended her energy blades into the console's core. A massive explosion of light and energy cascaded outward, knocking them back but leaving the central core inoperative, the Dranid armadas. Command network collapsed, their ships left directionless and vulnerable. "They didn't see that coming," Brian said, breathing heavily. "HFY strikes when least expected." Kira's lips curved in a triumphant smile. "And we've proven, once again, that ingenuity, adaptability, and courage, human and Lazerian combined, can turn the tide of war. HFY is alive." From their vantage point, the Dranid ships faltered, some retreating, others crashing into the planet's surface. Automated turrets they had previously set to defensive mode targeted the remaining vessels, finishing the destruction. Brian and Kira shared a glance, their bond transmitting the shared exhilaration of victory. "Next step," Brian said, scanning the remaining Dranid forces, "ensure no command resurgence." "HFY doesn't leave loose ends." Kira nodded, violet, blades humming. "Agreed. But we've already shown them what cooperation between species can accomplish. This is more than a victory, it's a demonstration." Brian smiled, adjusting his rifle. "Then let's finish the lesson. HFY style." They moved deeper into the core's complex, ready to neutralize any remaining threats, their bond synchronizing every movement, every strike, every tactical decision. Humanity and its allies were not just surviving, they were reshaping the galaxy. HFY was no longer just a mantra. It was an unstoppable force, a testament to ingenuity, courage, and collaboration across species. As they advanced, Brian felt the pulse of HFY in every fiber of his being, amplified by Kira's presence. Together, they were more than soldiers, they were a symbol, a warning, and a promise to the cosmos. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The Dranid core lay in ruin, its energy conduits shattered, sending ripples of chaos through the fleet above. Brian and Kira stood amidst the alien architecture, surveying the aftermath. Smoke and sparking machinery filled the chamber, yet their tactical displays pulsed with relief. Enemy command had been effectively neutralized. HFY had won another battle, but the war was far from over. "We did it," Brian muttered, adjusting his plasma rifle. The hum of its energy cell provided a strange comfort in the wreckage. "We actually did it. The Dranid core is offline, and the armada is disoriented. HFY strikes true." Kira's storm gray eyes scanned the room, fingers still lightly touching. "The central console. True, but we can't celebrate yet. Disarray will only last minutes before the Dranid regroup or send reinforcements. We need to secure this location and prepare for extraction." Brian grinned, letting the rush of adrenaline fuel his focus. "Sounds like a job for humanity and Lazerian ingenuity." HFY improvisation isn't just for combat, it's survival, too. They moved carefully through the shattered interior, noting the alien interfaces and structural hazards. Brian's augmented suit sensors detected weak points in the walls, potential traps or dormant defense mechanisms. Kira's energy blades hummed in tandem with his rifle, creating a protective corridor as they advanced. Enemy patrols incoming, Brian said, marking their display. 2 infantry units, 1 aerial drone. HFY adaptability required. Kira's lips curved in a confident smile. Leave them to me. Your job is the core's structural integrity. I'll handle the hunters. Brian nodded, trusting their bond to synchronize their actions. The bond amplified their coordination. He instinctively knew when to move, when to fire, when to provide cover. Kira's movements were precise, flowing through the air with deadly grace, her blades slicing drones and infantry alike with minimal effort. Core stability compromised. Brian reported, scanning the room. If we don't stabilize the central node, the explosion risk could endanger the planet below. HFY engineering required. Kira interfaced with the console, energy conduits intertwining with a blade. I can stabilize the node temporarily, but we need a permanent solution. HFY problem solving to the extreme. Brian accessed his suit's tactical interface, rerouting power from auxiliary systems to reinforce the node's energy matrix. Sparks flew as he worked, sweat dripping into his visor. The bond allowed him to feel Kira's guidance. Subtle adjustments transmitted mentally. Together, they were more than human, and Lazerian. They were a singular unit of unmatched efficiency. Node stabilized but temporary, Kira warned. We need evacuation now. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment. Brian scanned the tactical feed. Multiple Dranid fleets were converging, their sensors slowly recovering from the initial chaos. Extraction point coordinates locked. HFY survival mode engaged. As they moved toward the exit, Kira's energy blades intercepted incoming fire while Brian provided suppressive plasma bursts. Their bond allowed anticipatory reactions. They moved as one. Each step calculated, each strike precise. HFY was not about brute force, it was strategy, coordination, and exploiting the enemy's weaknesses. Enemy command reactivation detected, Brian noted. Partial signal, likely automated fallback protocols. We need to shut it down for good. Kira's storm grey eyes narrowed. Then we improvise. HFY requires boldness, not hesitation. They accessed the core's secondary systems, working in tandem. Brian provided raw firepower and environmental control while Kira manipulated the alien technology, rerouting energy flows, destabilizing systems from within. Sparks and arcs of violet energy lit the chamber as the Dranid defenses faltered once more. Core compromised permanently, Kira confirmed. HFY ingenuity wins. Again, Brian allowed himself a brief smile. And humanity isn't alone. Your species. We make a damn good team. Kira's violet energy blades hummed in affirmation. The bond isn't just tactical. HFY thrives when trust and coordination transcend species. Together, we redefine possibility. Their extraction route was clear, but the Dranid weren't. Done. Automated turrets reactivated sporadically, forcing Brian and Kira to move with precision. Every movement was a dance, plasma bursts synchronized with energy blade strikes, each anticipating the other's actions. HFY ingenuity shone in the chaos, turning near-death into coordinated opportunity. As they reached the extraction zone, a sleek Alliance dropship descended. Its engines sent debris flying, yet Brian and Kira approached with confidence. Ready for liftoff? Brian asked, scanning the surrounding terrain. Ready? Kira responded, storm grey eyes glinting. HFY never hesitates at the last moment. They boarded the dropship, their combined consciousness ensuring seamless coordination. The ship lifted off just as Dranid reinforcements emerged, their energy weapons firing futilely against the retreating craft. Brian and Kira exchanged a glance, sharing the exhilaration of survival and victory through their bond. Core neutralized. Armada disoriented. Planet safe for now. Brian reported to Alliance Command via encrypted feed. HFY triumphs. Through ingenuity, courage, and unity, Kira's voice, calm yet fierce, added, let this be a testament. Species working together, human and Lazerian, can achieve what alone is impossible. HFY isn't just a slogan, it's action. The dropship soared through the stratosphere, leaving the Dranid world behind. Brian watched the alien horizon shrink, reflecting on their journey. Every firefight, every tactical maneuver, every moment of improvisation had brought them here. HFY was more than survival, it was the spirit of humanity and its allies standing against insurmountable odds, rewriting the rules of the galaxy. Kira placed a hand on his shoulder, their bond transmitting unspoken affirmation. Next step, she murmured, is ensuring the Dranid never regain command. HFY demands follow-through, not complacency. Brian nodded, energy surging through his suit as he adjusted his plasma rifle. Then we plan, we strike, and we continue to show the galaxy why human courage and Lazerian skill, combined, are unstoppable. HFY, in every heartbeat, in every action, from their shared consciousness, the bond amplified every thought, every strategy, every spark of courage. The Dranid threat was diminished, but the galaxy remained a volatile canvas. Humanity and its allies were ready not just to survive, but to inspire. HFY was no longer whispered in tales of heroism. It was lived, a force reshaping the cosmos. As the stars stretched before them, Brian and Kira knew the war was far from over, but their bond, human and Lazerian, tactical and primal, was unbreakable. HFY was not just alive. HFY was evolution, defiance and hope, traveling with them across the galaxy. The Alliance war room was alive with tension and anticipation. Brian and Kira had returned from the Dranid core, their bond stronger than ever, carrying the weight of not only victory, but the future of interstellar cooperation. Screens displayed, fleets of human and Lazerian ships converging on strategic points, energy flows humming with coordinated precision. HFY was no longer a slogan, it was the tangible proof that ingenuity, courage, and unity could redefine the galaxy's balance of power. Admiral Thompson's voice cut through the ambient noise, calm yet authoritative. Sergeant Carter, Commander Banis, your reports are unprecedented. The Dranid core neutralization was expected to take weeks. You accomplished it in hours. Explain your methods. Brian exchanged a glance with Kira, storm gray eyes meeting his brown ones, their bond transmitting mutual understanding. The methods weren't just human or Lazerian. Brian began, his tone firm yet confident. We combine tactics, technology, and instincts. HFY thrives on improvisation, on trusting your allies when standard protocols fail. Kira added, her voice echoing authority and pride. We relied on synergy, human adaptability paired with Lazerian insight creates outcomes neither species could achieve alone. What you call unprecedented is, to us, natural when trust and shared purpose guide action. The room went silent, the assembled officers processing the implications. HFY was more than bravery, it was the principle of combining strengths, learning from one another, and surpassing limits previously thought immutable. Suddenly, the communication panel flickered. Brian's tactical interface highlighted a Dranid incursion, a fleet attempting to regroup after the core's destruction. They're not done, he muttered. HFY vigilance required. Kira's energy blades activated automatically, humming in synchronization with his plasma rifle. Then we ensure they will be done, she replied, stepping forward. The Alliance now knows what we are capable of. HFY is more than a rallying cry, strategy, execution, and dominance through coordination. They boarded the flagship, a hybrid human Lazerian vessel equipped with integrated systems. The bond between them allowed instinctive navigation through the ship's complex interface, each controlling separate subsystems while anticipating the other's needs. Their shared consciousness turned individual tasks into a singular flow of command. Targeting the Dranid vanguard, Brian reported, relaying coordinates to the fleet. Plasma rays and energy matrices locked. HFI precision engaged. Kira smiled, storm gray eyes glinting. They'll see the strength of unity firsthand. Let's demonstrate why no species stands alone against combined will. The fleet surged forward, human vessels firing with calculated efficiency while Lazerian energy constructs supported and enhanced each strike. Dranid ships faltered, their defenses overwhelmed by tactics that merged raw firepower with predictive energy resonance. HFY was manifest not in sheer numbers, but in coordination, intelligence, and relentless adaptability. Brian and Kira piloted the flagship through the thick of battle, every maneuver a testament to HFY principles. Plasma bolts and energy arcs danced across space, cutting through enemy formations with surgical precision. The Dranid, formidable as they were, could not anticipate the level of integration between species. "Look at them," Kira said, watching the battlefield unfold on her augmented display. HFY isn't just surviving. We're leading, teaching, redefining how war is fought and won. Brian's grip tightened on the control interface. And it's not just war. This is a blueprint for everything: alliances, technology, diplomacy. HFY isn't a moment, it's a methodology. The Dranid flagship attempted a desperate counteroffensive, launching concentrated strikes toward the human Lazerian fleet. Brian anticipated the trajectory, transmitting subtle adjustments through the bond. Kira's blades pulsed with energy, redirecting incoming attacks and creating shields that absorbed and reflected power. Together, they neutralized the assault. Before it reached the main fleet, "Your turn," Brian said with a grin, letting Kira take the lead on a precise strike. She maneuvered her energy blades in sync with the flagship's weapon systems, creating a lattice of destructive power that targeted the Dranid core remnants. "HFY improvisation, refined," she said softly. The Dranid command vessel erupted in a cascade of explosions, its energy systems collapsing under the combined assault. Fleet sensors confirmed widespread disarray across Dranid lines. Humanity and Lazerian forces surged forward, capturing strategic positions previously thought lost. HFY had not only survived, they had triumphed. Brian exhaled, his enhanced muscles relaxing slightly. "Mission accomplished," he said, though the intensity of the battle still hummed through him. HFY doesn't just fight, it innovates. Under pressure, Kira placed a hand on his shoulder, their bond transmitting a wave of shared triumph, and with proof of it. The galaxy now understands that unity, trust, and collaboration are more powerful than brute force alone. HFY isn't just humanity, it's the principle of surpassing limits with courage and intelligence. The flagship hovered above the battlefield, lights reflecting across debris fields and smoldering Dranid ships. Brian and Kira stood side by side, storm grey and brown eyes surveying the scene. HFY had rewritten the rules of engagement. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Thompson's voice came over the comm, tinged with awe. "Sergeant Carter, Commander Banis, your actions will be studied for generations. HFY is no longer theoretical, it's operational." Brian glanced at Kira, letting their bond convey everything words could not. "We did it together," he said, voice firm. "HFY is alive in every decision, every risk, every shared heartbeat." Kira smiled, energy blades dimming but still resonant with their connection. The galaxy has seen what happens when courage meets ingenuity. HFY isn't a slogan, it's a legacy. And we're just getting started. Below, the combined fleets held formation, ready for new challenges. Above, the stars stretched endlessly, a canvas for the ongoing saga of unity, innovation, and survival. Brian and Kira's bond, tested in fire and combat, had become a symbol not only of HFY, but of the limitless potential of cooperation across species. As the flagship set course for the Alliance Command Center, Brian allowed a rare moment of reflection. From a battlefield rescue to commanding a fleet, HFY is the constant. Kira laughed softly, storm grey eyes sparkling. From survival to leadership, from courage to innovation, HFY defines every step we take. And this is only the beginning. Their unborn child, safely within Kira's care, pulsed with presence through the bond, a living testament to the fusion of human and Lazerian potential. HFY was no longer a dream, it was reality, embodied in their unity, their courage, and their shared purpose. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new standard. HFY was alive, unstoppable, and luminous. And for Brian, Kira, and the life they were creating together, every star ahead represented possibility, hope, and the eternal. Called to surpass limits, HFY would not fade. HFY would endure.